Welcome to this episode of Sleep Health. My name is Dr. Alison Bentley, and this is the Restonic Power of Sleep podcast. It's December in South Africa, and many people are going on holiday as it's our summer holidays. And I suspect a lot of people are saying, great, I can't wait for my holiday so I can catch up on sleep. And that is certainly true for a lot of people, but it's not necessarily that your sleep is going to get better when you're on holiday. And it may also happen that the sleep that you do have on holiday, in order to catch up, actually can make your sleep worse when you come back. So let's look at how holidays can affect sleep and how your sleep might change during the holidays. So 3 big groups of changes that will occur with your sleep. So the first one is that you will sleep better on holiday. Second one is there's going to be no difference between the sleep that you have when you're at home and the sleep you have on holiday. And there are a group of people where sleep is going to get worse when you go on holiday. So let's first look at sleep getting better. So there are a number of situations where sleep is going to get better when you go on holiday. Obviously, the first one is if you have sleep deprivation, and either because of work, so for example, shift work, where you're not able to sleep a lot and you're having to sleep during the day. And we know that if you sleep during the day, you're never going to sleep as well as when you do at night. It's going to be shorter and poorer quality. So if you've been working shifts up until you go on holiday, undoubtedly you're going to sleep better. But there are still some people who work shift work that are not going to sleep well, and we'll look into that a little bit later. Also domestic duties. So if you have children at school very often and you work a full day, get home, have dinner, get all the kids to bed, and then you start doing kind of domestic work or work that you have to do. And so you're going to bed much later than you would like to and getting up earlier because you need to get the kids to school. So that kind of sleep deprivation, you're much more likely to sleep better because you can go to bed when you want to and you can sleep later in the morning. That is, if your children let you sleep in later. But you can nap during the day, so you can catch up, and generally if you're in that kind of group, you generally will sleep better. This also includes if you have stress, if work is a stress for you, so much so that at night you lie in bed and you battle to fall asleep because of what's happening at work. When you go away on holiday, if you can leave work behind, then it's easier to fall asleep because you're not worrying about the work situation and what you have to do tomorrow. So you're going to sleep better in that situation. Also, if you are the kind of person, and we've spoken about this before, that you're either a lark or an owl. So larks are people who go to bed early and wake up early in the morning, and night owls are people who go to bed late and wake up late. Now, it's easy to override this, but you will always feel as though there's something a bit wrong. And so the larks are going to be fine during the work situation because they can usually go to bed early and wake up early in time for work. It's the night owls who are going to suffer. So they go to bed late and then they have to get up early to be able to go to work. And if you get up earlier than your natural wake up time, you will always feel tired when you wake up, but more than that, you may feel like physically unwell. So you're not sick, but you don't feel well. And that is because if you wake up before your natural wake up time, your body is still asleep. And so your blood pressure is low, your pulse rate is low, you haven't produced cortisol yet, your gut is inactive, so it's resting. And so you're just not in the right physical frame to get up and start working. So in that situation, you may find that you don't feel hungry when you wake up in the morning, at 6 o'clock, let's say, because your gut is inactive. And then suddenly at 9:30, your gut is rumbling and making noises and you feel starving. And that's after your natural wake-up time. So if you have that kind of night owlish kind of pattern, and remember that this is biological and is pretty much set, like this is who you are. And so it can be very difficult to change. But if you're a night owl, then you will relish holidays when you don't have to get up at 6. You can get up at 8, or 9. When your natural wake up time occurs, you can get enough sleep every night. And so you will enjoy the holidays and get much better sleep. So that's the second group of people who are going to sleep better, are the night owls, who are having to restrict their sleep in order to cope with the social constraints of their work. The third group are those people who go from a high altitude to a low altitude. Now, you wouldn't think that altitude made a difference in sleep, but it does. Firstly, just the traveling between high altitude. So we sit in Johannesburg, really quite high, and most of the people who go on holiday from Johannesburg will go to the coast, i.e. a lower altitude. So firstly, the travel will make you tired, so you're more likely to sleep better the night you're down there. But most people find that they sleep better and are more tired when they go on holiday down to the coast. Now, it may be just because they're leaving work behind and they're leaving stress behind, and so they are naturally more sleepy and can go with the sleepiness. But some people really do believe that the low altitude actually induces sleepiness in people. We do know, for example, that if you have sleep apnea, that often that is better when you go down to low altitude. And if the sleep apnea is part of your sleep problem when you're up in Johannesburg, you may find you sleep better because the apnea is slightly better when you go down there. So 3 different groups of people who have sleep deprivation because of work constraints, domestic constraints, shift work, and stress. Another group of people who are night owls, who find it very difficult to get enough sleep given the necessity to wake up early for work. And the third group who go from high altitude or low altitude. These are the 3 groups that are almost certainly going to get better sleep when they go on holiday. Let's move now to the group in which there's usually no difference. So it's very frustrating if you go on holiday and your expectation is that you're going to sleep a whole lot better when you go on holiday, and you just don't. And there's no difference between the sleep that you have at home and the sleep that you have on holiday. But this is a very important thing to notice because it tells us something, and it tells us what we need to do when we come back from holiday. So insomnia. So let's start with insomnia. 2 groups of disorders which are not going to get any different when you go on holiday. So insomnia can be caused by stress, by work, as we've explained, by getting up too early in the morning. But there are a bunch of causes from insomnia that are not going to change no matter what you do, no matter where you go, what we call the biological causes of insomnia. So those would include extreme night owls. So that is people who can only fall asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning and then have to wake up at 10, for example. That's called delayed sleep phase syndrome. That's actually a disorder. So people who have that, which are often young men who get that disorder, and people who have restless leg syndrome, and people who have obstructive sleep apnea that is causing insomnia. That's not going to change when you go on holiday. You may be able to sleep a lot later when you have delayed sleep phase syndrome in the morning. You may be able to do that, so you may feel a little bit better, but it's not going to fix the disorder at all. Restless legs doesn't matter where you are. It's going to be there, and it's always going to interfere with your sleep. Sleep apnea in about 30% of men causes insomnia as its major symptom. And this insomnia is mainly that you're able to fall asleep, but you wake up in the middle of the night and then may find it difficult to go back to sleep after that. So because both restless legs and its cousin disorder, the periodic limb movement disorder, because both of those make it more difficult to fall asleep and destroy the quality of your sleep during the night, there's going to be no difference when you go down on holiday. The difference might be that because you can sleep longer on holiday, so you can add a couple of hours, you may be able to compensate for some of the reduced quality of your sleep. But you're still not going to wake up feeling fully refreshed because those disorders are still going to be there. Why that's important that your sleep is not different when you go on holiday is that you notice that and you go, I need to do something about that. I need to go and speak to somebody when I get home about the fact that my sleep did not improve when I went on holiday. So that's really important. If you have insomnia, so we've spoken about insomnia. If you have sleep apnea or periodic limb movements, and the symptoms that you have with that is that you sleep okay, you sleep 7 to 8 hours, but you wake up in the morning feeling exhausted and feeling tired and then feel sleepy during the day. Again, those 2 disorders are not going to go away when you go on holiday. So you're still going to wake up tired in the morning. Now, a lot of people, when they sleep relatively well and wake up tired in the morning, will put that down to the fact that they are stressed, that they're working too hard, something about lifestyle, and that's why they're waking up tired in the morning. If you go on holiday and you're not stressed and you're not working hard and you still wake up tired in the morning after you've had adequate amounts of sleep, plus some daytime sleepiness during the day, then that's a sign that something is wrong and that there's something biologically wrong with your sleep. So that is an important sign, and you need to, when you get home, you need to kind of go, maybe what I'm thinking the tiredness is about is not really what it's about, and I may have a full sleep disorder, so I do need to go and see somebody. Then insomnia itself, if you are anxious about your sleep and you find it difficult to fall asleep because you're not really sleepy when you go to bed, and you have interrupted sleep, so you find it difficult to fall asleep, you wake up in the middle of the night and you find it difficult to go back to sleep, that may not change when you go on holiday, because if you keep the bedtime and the wake time far enough apart from each other, you may still have insomnia. So if you keep your bedtime and your wake up time constant, and you have insomnia, you may still have insomnia when you go on holiday. That may not change at all. Again, really important to notice, to kind of go, when I do have insomnia that is not just about stress at work, I do need to see somebody when I get home. So when we look at sleep disorders where there's no difference in your work sleep and your holiday sleep, we're looking for those biological disorders which don't change when you're on holiday or when you're at work. Really important to find them, because they can be treated and they need to be diagnosed properly so that you can sleep better, both at work and on holidays. The third group of people are where sleep is going to get worse. And this is always horrible, because you want sleep to get better or at least be the same when you go away on holiday, and sleep can actually get much worse. So the one group again are the patients who have insomnia. When you have insomnia and you're not getting enough sleep, and you recognize that because of how you feel during the day, when you're not getting enough sleep, kind of your first idea is that you should spend more time in bed. Spend more time in bed, spend more time resting, more time trying to fall asleep, and that will produce more sleep. Well, not necessarily. And some patients who have insomnia, who think it's about stress at work, when they go on holiday, their attitude is, I will go to bed earlier and I'll wake up later. And that is pretty much designed to make the insomnia worse, not better. In fact, if we look at treating insomnia, and that is solving the problem, not just treating it with medication, but solving the problem, we use a program called Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia, CBTI. And the first process in CBTI is called sleep restriction. And what we do there is we shorten the time that you have to sleep, not lengthen it, shorten it. So we take somebody who is now spending 8 hours in bed and only getting 6 hours of sleep, and we cut that down to 6 hours in bed. What we're trying to do there is consolidate the sleep, stop the brain from faffing around and taking all the time it likes to get whatever sleep it can get, and to make it more focused to get the 6 hours in one solid block. It's extremely effective when it comes to insomnia and solving the insomnia. And so we use it all the time. Sleep restriction, reducing the amount of hours that you spend trying to fall asleep. So you can understand then that when you go on holiday and you suddenly expand the amount of hours, that is going in the opposite direction if you have insomnia. If you're sleep deprived, that is the appropriate response. But if you have insomnia, spending more time in bed is counteractive to actually getting good sleep. You need to spend less time. So patients who have insomnia at work, which is not maybe related to work stress or anything like that, can sleep a lot worse when they go on holiday if they try to get more sleep. The other time where you can get worse sleep is if you stay up really late. And so often that occurs with young people, is that they might stay up partying every night, or they may stay up gaming every night because it's the holidays and they don't have to get up for school in the morning. And so I often see a lot of young patients in January, February who have done this during the holidays, stayed up really late because they can, go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, sleep till 11 because they can, and then suddenly school starts again and they're stuck because they're stuck on another time zone. So that is all okay during the holidays, but there is a point at which your sleep cannot kick back into the normal kind of rhythm. So is your sleep getting worse? It's fine during the holidays, but when you come back, then your sleep is much worse, and then you have a full-blown sleep disorder. So again, really important not to do that if you can avoid it. Then the big problem we have, if you're so lucky, is traveling internationally. As far as sleep getting worse. If you travel internationally, if you go north to south, so that is Europe to South Africa, or Middle East to South Africa, there's very little time zone changes, and so your sleep is likely to be okay. However, you're sleeping in a strange place, with strange noises, strange lights, strange air cons. Everything is different about where you're sleeping, and so we expect you to sleep worse. We expect everybody to sleep worse the first night that you sleep in a strange environment. Even in the sleep clinic, when we bring patients in to do a sleep recording, they'll always say, I really didn't sleep well. And we go, we know. That's how sleep works. Nobody sleeps well the first night in a new environment. So if you're going to an environment you don't know, bed you don't know, everything is different. I find myself fighting with the aircon every time I go away and have to sleep in a hotel. But everything is different, and so we expect you to sleep worse the first night. However, 2 or 3 nights later, you should be okay. But if you're going on a tour and you're visiting multiple cities, for example, you're going to sleep badly because every night it's a different bed. Or if it's the same bed, it's only the same bed for 2 nights, and then you're moving on to another bed. And so it's a different bed over and over again. And so you're likely to sleep worse. You're not likely to sleep better on holiday. So just the environment, just the bed can make it difficult to sleep. Included in that is if you're used to sleeping on your own and now you have to share a bed with siblings or cousins or something like that, you may sleep worse because you're not used to having other people in the room. If you are young parents and you have young children, you may find that wherever you're traveling to, you need to have your children in your bedroom. Now that's fine, but you now hear every cough, every splutter, every movement, everything that happens, and that might wake you up throughout the night. You may find that you respond to the sounds of your children, which when they're in another bedroom or further away from you, you don't hear, but now because they're in the same bedroom, you hear them all the time. So just because of living arrangements, you may find that your sleep is worse than it is when you're at home. So multiple reasons why environmentally you might have a poor night's sleep when you are traveling. Then there is traveling anywhere else apart from north-south, and that is traveling east or west. So traveling west would be going to the United States or South America. Traveling east would be going to India, the Far East, Australia, New Zealand, that kind of place. And we know that because you're traveling over time zones very quickly, that it's likely that you will get jet lag. And so it's likely that you're not going to sleep well. If you stay in the same place for a period of time, you will adjust. So your sleep rhythms will adjust. So let's take an example if you fly to Perth. So Perth, New York, they're both about 6 hours from South Africa. So let's do the travel east first. When you travel east to, let's say, Perth, it's 6 hours ahead, which means that at midnight, Perth time, it is 6 p.m. South Africa time. So when it is 12 o'clock or midnight Perth time, it is very unlikely that you're going to feel sleepy because your body is at 6 o'clock South Africa time, which is when you're not usually sleepy. In fact, if your bedtime is usually 10 o'clock at night, and that is when you feel sleepy, you're only going to feel sleepy at 4 o'clock a.m. Perth time. And so the problem traveling east, it's the biggest problem we have with jet lag because when you travel east, your day gets shorter. So in this case of Perth, you now have an 18-hour day instead of a 24-hour day. What that does is it takes away one of the big forces we have to make us feel sleepy. 2 biological forces that make you feel sleepy. One is melatonin, and we'll discuss a little bit more about that. One is melatonin, the other one is called the homeostatic force. And the homeostatic force is very simple. It just says the longer you stay awake, the sleepier you're going to get. It's really just an accumulation of waste products in the brain over the day where the brain doesn't have time to deal with them. And as they accumulate, we get sleepier. When we sleep, the brain can deal with all of those waste products while we're asleep. So if you shorten your day, you lose that homeostatic force, and so you don't have that helping you to fall asleep. And all you have is melatonin, and your melatonin is 6 hours ahead of where you actually want to sleep. So traveling east is always a problem because your sleepiness only comes very late at night or early the next morning. And this is where taking melatonin tablets or capsules can help enormously by actually moving the melatonin deliberately forward so that you can fall asleep. If you don't take melatonin, you will find it very difficult to sleep for a few days once you get to your eastern destination, until your kind of body rhythm gets back. The mantra kind of seems to be that you need a day to adjust to every single time zone. So in the case of Perth, that would be 6 days that you need to fully adjust so that everything is back into line. Remembering that your circadian rhythms are not only about sleep and wake, but also the drop in body temperature, the drop in gut activity, the drop in blood pressure, the rise in cortisol at a particular time of the day. And in fact, your whole body is on a 24-hour clock, which is now 6 hours out compared to where you actually are. So sunlight and dark will be different compared to your body clock. But it is the difference in the sunlight and the sunset which retrains your body clock over a period of time. So over a few days, it will usually get better and you will usually sleep okay. But for that first 4 or 5 nights, very good chance that you're not going to sleep well. And that is why melatonin is used in that situation. So the way to use melatonin when you're traveling east is to, whenever you do your normal bedtime, what your normal bedtime would be. And for this example, I'm going to say 11 o'clock. That is usually when I go to sleep. You would always take melatonin an hour and a half before your bedtime. So it's a bit of a calculation you have to do. You kind of have to look at where you're going, where 11 p.m. is at that time, what the relative South African time is for that 11 p.m. and an hour and a half before that. So if we take Perth, we're looking at 11 p.m. at Perth is going to be 5 p.m. South Africa time, and you would take the melatonin at 3:30 in the afternoon. So the day of your travel, you take melatonin at 3:30 in the afternoon. Usually you're on a flight. That's not a problem. Then you can just nap on the flight if you get super sleepy from the melatonin. But just the day before, take the melatonin then at 3:30 in the afternoon to travel to Perth. When you get there, you take it at 9:30 Perth time to be able to go to sleep at 11. It's really, really good and puts you into Perth time very quickly. So within 2 or 3 days, you are sleeping well and everything's back in line. So then you have an extra 3 days where you're not sleeping terribly and you can enjoy being on holiday. So that's flying east. And we usually advise that you use melatonin, particularly if you're older. So over the age of 50, it's very unlikely that you have a lot of melatonin around. Your sleep is completely dependent on the homeostatic force. And when you lose that, your sleep is really very, very bad. So particularly if you're older, use melatonin to be able to adjust to the time zone so that you can enjoy your holiday. Otherwise, the holiday is a bit of a waste. It's particularly important if you have children. They're also going to be jet lagged. Everybody is going to be jet lagged. Melatonin is really safe to use in children. We use it all the time in children. It is one of the very few medications where, in fact, a higher dose in children is used than in adults. So in adults, usually we use 2 milligrams of melatonin in older adults. In children, often we use 4 or 6 milligrams to get the same effect. And that is because naturally children have a high melatonin level, and it slowly decreases from then until at about 70, there's no melatonin being produced at all. So melatonin is safe for the whole family. Please get a script for it. Please work out exactly when you need to take it. It needs to be taken very carefully and at the right time to be able to get the effect that you want. But it is far safer for everybody to take melatonin, adjust your sleep quickly into the new time zone and sleep well when you get there. Because then you don't have ragged parents and ragged children, and just that never ends well when you're on holiday. So that's flying east. Flying west is different. So when you fly west, what happens is the day gets 6 hours longer. So if we take New York as an example, it's 6 hours ahead of us. So when it is 12 o'clock South Africa time, it is 6 p.m. New York time. And so when it is 12 o'clock midnight New York time, it is 6 a.m. South Africa time. And it's much easier to delay your sleep than it is to advance it. So advance it is bring it forward, so go to sleep earlier. Delay it is go to sleep later. It is much easier to naturally delay your sleep. And so it is easier when you go fly west to just go to bed later and then wake up whenever you do in the morning. And often people adjust very quickly to going west. So that is not a problem. And so we don't use melatonin flying west because there's no benefit in using melatonin. However, if the older that you are and the more set your sleep habits are, you may find that it's fine to delay your sleep, that you can go to bed at 9 o'clock New York time because you can just stay up later, particularly if you nap in the plane on the way there. You can stay up a bit later, but then your body clock wakes you up at 2 o'clock in the morning because that is South Africa, 8 o'clock in the morning. And so you're awake now, and it's very difficult to actually go back to sleep again because your body clock has now woken up. And so you're awake. So that can be tricky, and that's difficult to solve because you obviously can't take sleeping tablets at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that can be tricky, and you need to work on that. Usually it adjusts within a day or so, and you're okay. So in summary, flying east, you often need to use melatonin because your day is shorter and you don't feel sleepy at the right time. Flying west, usually you can adjust quite well. And so that's getting there. Then when you come back, obviously everything is reversed. So when you come back from flying east, so say you've been visiting Australia and you come back, you are now flying west, and your jet lag should adjust within a couple of days. So you don't need melatonin coming the other way. But when you come back from flying west, so coming back from the US, you are now traveling east, and you may need melatonin to adjust to South Africa time. That all sounds very confusing, but I hope that makes some sense. Flying east is the only time that you need to use melatonin, and that is either going on holiday to the east or coming back from holiday from the west. So really important to use melatonin to adjust your sleep so that your sleep can come back. If your sleep does not come back within a couple of days or a week, please contact your doctor for some melatonin and get it back into shape. You may need a short course of sleeping tablets, so 5 tablets to really get it back into place. But please don't worry about that. Five tablets is not going to get you hooked or addicted or anything like that. It is just to force the sleep back into the right time zone so that you can then continue with sleeping well. So that's the deal with going on holiday. Your sleep might either get better, it might be no different, or it might get worse. Also important to remember is that you go on holiday and then you come back. And there are multiple reasons why when you come back, your sleep is going to get worse. So if your sleep gets worse when you come back, again, reassess that. Why has my sleep got worse? Is it because the environment is poor where I'm sleeping at home? Is it because of the work stress? Is it because that I'm getting up too early in the morning? Is it because I have delayed my sleep and I'm now going to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning and getting up at 10? And I expected just to kind of kick back into the normal time zone, and it hasn't. If it hasn't, please see somebody about that. That is, it needs melatonin. It needs a very particular protocol of gradually moving the sleep back into the right time zone so that you can continue with work. Remember that if you have poor sleep on holiday, that you're likely to come back unrested, and so you have not had the benefit of your holiday. So it is really important to try and get as good a sleep as you can during your holiday, particularly if you don't sleep well when you're at home. So that is the deal for holiday sleep. All kinds of things that can go wrong, but everything that happens tells us something about your sleep and can be useful in managing a sleep problem going forward. So I hope you have great holidays. I hope you have a great festive season, and I hope you all sleep well and enjoy your holiday well rested and getting all the benefits of a good night's sleep.